What would your explanation be of I think you kind of touched on it, but the explanation between here's the connection between science, energy, frequency, vibration, stuff that we can see, track, we can do all this stuff, to spirit, universe, consciousness, whatever you at home are watching or listening identify this as. What is, I know you said energy, but if you were to explain it to a layman like myself, this is why science and consciousness are connected. How would you explain that?
Okay, everything in the universe started as energy. The universe had no matter when it started. So every particle in a hydrogen atom, which is usually just a proton and an electron, because it doesn't need a neutron normally, is at the subatomic level, the lowest level. That was energy. If you take energy in a machine in a science lab, you can squeeze energy together and make a particle.
Okay.
When you take that energy apart, excuse me, when you take that particle apart, you release energy. If you saw Oppenheimer, that's what they were doing. I don't want to say the bad stuff, but you blow, big boom happens when you take apart atoms, right? It's very destructive. So imagine all that energy is compacted into these atoms. It's just squished in there. Now, we are made of atoms. The atoms in our body came from stars. It's going to make me cry because it's so beautiful. Came from stars that exploded billions of years ago. All the atoms in our body, except for a little bit of hydrogen, which came from the beginning of the universe, all the atoms in our body came from exploded stars, because that is the only way we got atoms heavier than helium. And most helium is made in stars. Stars fuse all the hydrogen to make helium, lithium, beryllium, carbon, da 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 da, all the way to iron. So iron is the end of the fusion line. So all the iron in your blood literally came from a star that exploded billions of years ago.
Can I ask? This might be a very complicated three-letter question, but how?
Okay, it's called stellar nucleosynthesis. So stars are only made of hydrogen. So the beginning of the universe was just energy. That energy started being attracted to each other by the forces in the universe that, you know, those became protons, okay, and neutrons and electrons. All right. Hydrogen is the simplest atom with one proton and one electron sometimes. We won't go down that road. So hydrogen, simplest atom. The hydrogen started coalescing into a big sphere because enough hydrogen, everything in space is spherical. That's why the Earth is a sphere, by the way, for any flat earthers out there. You're in space, gravity pulls equally from all sides. You're a big ball of liquid. You're going to be round. So that's an aside. Anyway, all the stars start forming. They're gigantic in the beginning of the universe. They're millions, billions of times bigger than our sun. They live hard and die fast. They fuse, all that hydrogen squeezes together at the center of the star. Four hydrogens make one helium. So there's two extra protons and some electrons and stuff that just turn into energy and get released, because you can't, at that point, you can't fuse all four um, of the protons to make a four-parter. You get a two-parter, which makes helium, two protons, which makes helium, and the rest just kind of goes out as energy. So all of that hydrogen is fusing in the center of these stars. The stars eventually run out of hydrogen. So now helium starts fusing. And then on and on and on down the line of the periodic table, it's called the fusion line, until you get to iron. A star can't sustain itself once it starts fusing iron. It just blows. It either becomes a black hole if it's big enough, or a supernova if it's in the middle range, um, or our sun will become a white dwarf. So Anyway, the stars can't go after iron. So
Okay.
in a supernova, which is where we get all of our heavy elements, the all of the elements that were fused inside the star get blown out into the universe and make they recombine to make elements heavier than iron. So that's where elements heavier than iron. The explosion's so fast and so hard that those atoms run into each other and fuse. That's why the heavy elements are so much more rare. Okay. Now we have these big clouds of gas and atoms all over the universe because the stars are exploding. And that coalesces into new clouds of gas and dust and particles. Those make new stars. We actually can see this um, on video. You can look at telescopes, see this happening now. You can see these newborn stars and newborn planets forming around them. So the star forms, and then you can see a disk of gas and dust. And you can actually, in some of the pictures, see lanes where planets are forming, and they're clearing the dust. So we came from that whole process. Um, Earth came from a cloud of gas and dust with our other planets in our solar system and our sun from that process. So everything we're made of came from many stars that exploded billions of years ago.
And I'm stuck here worrying about money.
I know.
All of that happened.
I know.
That's so funny. That's all. As you're thinking about that, I'm like, and I'm over here sitting worried about God knows what.
It
Um,
puts everything into perspective, right?
it does, and like, because I heard Neil deGrasse Tyson talk about how we are made up of the same core four elements of stars: hydrogen,
It's
nitrogen,
called chnops: carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur, the six main ingredients in life on Earth.
and the hobbyist that I am stayed right on that surface level. Stayed right there. I go, well, that's a fun little trivia. If I was on Jeopardy, I might get that one right. Um, Probably wouldn't have. But and I think about that, and then so all of those, it's so hard to even picture those things, right? And then they form what we know as life today.
That's a whole new process
That
after
right.
what I just explained. There's a whole new side.